Point is brought to you by Open Form Radio, Blue Man Rule, Ace Black, Debate. Let's go. It's time to commence the great debate between prosecution and defense. It's like yang and yin, but only one can win. So without further ado, yo, it's time to begin. Prove your point is brought to you by Blue Man Rule, assisted by Ace Black. Man, that boy's a fool, armed with knowledge and just a microphone is my tools. And to the listeners, let me just lay down the rules. Both sides get opening, counter, and closing remarks. All the while, with a smile and a partial judge watches the sparks. But there is a time limit, each section is 2 minutes. Time to find out who'll win it, come on. Let's get it. Hey everybody, and welcome back to Prove Your Point. This is episode 52. Ferguson. That's what we're talking about, man. We're talking about Ferguson, Missouri. This is recorded on Wednesday, August 20th, 2014, approximately 9:02 p.m. Central Standard Time. Sorry I got started a little late. I am one of your hosts this evening. I am Larry, a.k.a. Blue Man Rule, and I am joined this evening by the pastor himself, you know, the king of knowledge. We know him as the ultimate field general. There's none other than Henry, a.k.a. Knoxbroadcast. Hey,
what's going on, people?
And also joining us in the fray, all the way from the East Coast, flying in on Air Force Real Talk. It is none other than Mike, aka Scarfinger.
I'm about to become a politician, yo.
Obviously, right? Obviously, right. But yeah,
the rent is too dang high.
I forgot about that thing, man.
That's the funniest documentary I've ever seen in my life, man. Like that.
Yeah.
Oh man, that dude is hilarious, man.
Yeah, he knows it too. I mean, he knows he's hilarious, man. And you know, he had a great campaign going on when he was running for I think he was running for governor. Was he running for mayor?
It was like
New
mayor
York?
or governor or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, he was running for mayor in New York at one point in time, man. But yeah, it's too dang high, man. And did you hear? If you hadn't heard the rap song, you need to check out the rap song. Because they did. I am not lying.
I don't think
they did a rap song on it being too high, man. On it being too. Oh man, it is a pleasure and a joy to actually participate in that rap song. But hey man, let's get into it, man. All right. So first off, I want to send my apologies. Could not get Jason, aka Golf Rat, on. He wanted to be on, so he's mentioned he had a dinner, so he probably wouldn't be able to make it. But and Jimmy,
Golf Rat. I haven't talked to Golf Rat in so long.
Yeah, I know it, man. But apparently he's doing good. Zombie World Order is holding him down, and you know, his post game report. So he's doing fine. Jimmy, aka the Ace Black, couldn't be here for baby issues. We had time from 8:15 till now, and then technical issues arose. But well, that's just some of the casualties of working with new software, right? So.
Yeah. And you pretty much had to go with Google at this point, because did you hear Spreecast is charging now?
No, I did not hear that.
Yeah, Spreecast is charging now. They have like tiers or some crap like that.
So what's the deal with that? So
they want you to pay for it. I got an email because I did a couple of test Spreecast. I did a couple of live shows in the past, and they sent me an email basically saying, hey, if you got some stuff on Spreecast, if you ain't signed up for one of our things over here, we can go ahead and take that off. Thanks.
Oh, for real? Man.
So if you ain't up on their paid service, I think they're just gonna take all that stuff off of this service.
Man, that's tough. See, it's getting hard out here in these free independent media podcasting streets. Let's be honest.
With this being tied into YouTube, this is pretty much the best thing. Anyway, because YouTube. Let me ask you this question. Since I mean I'm on with two very intelligent brothers. Do you ever see YouTube failing?
YouTube failing?
Yeah, because everything that we think is unstoppable eventually gets stopped. Like, remember when MySpace was a giant?
Yeah.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, why would anybody do anything different?
Well, I mean, I can actually only see YouTube getting bigger. As I said on OFR last night, this month was the first month that YouTube has supplanted Facebook for a number of visitors, unique visitors in a month, 167 million to 166 million. So I only see it improving, especially as hopefully the broadband speeds and the network infrastructure expand and improve throughout the entire U.S. I can only see it getting bigger and better. And yes, it's tough, man. Unless people really want to start locking down those, I guess those copyright claims and things like that, those infringement violations. Otherwise, if YouTube doesn't shoot its own self in the foot, it will continue to grow and be more or less omnipresent. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was kind of my theory too, because I think YouTube's biggest competition or scare was really Facebook, but it doesn't like Facebook's going the video medium way. They enjoy having people post YouTube videos onto Facebook, and I guess their second scare was when people were just uploading random videos of popular movies, from Paramount and everything else. But now they have that built-in algorithm, albeit not perfect by any means, but they shut everything down. And I mean, they have a whole research algorithm and team that makes sure stuff that's copywritten doesn't get posted on YouTube, and if it does, it quickly gets taken down. So I think that the networks and the movie networks and everything, I think they're actually behind YouTube because they see it as a secondary media market for advertisement. I mean, you think about, YouTubers that have, 6 million, 8 million people watching them all the time, and they're literally making money off of YouTube without having to even, people are quitting their jobs working for strictly just, full-time YouTubers. I mean, that is just crazy. You know what I'm saying? I mean, who would ever think that was happening? I mean, MySpace tried it with the whole music thing, and Justin Timberlake tried to reinvigorate it by putting his name out front and everything, but there's nothing like video. And, that's why we're here right now, is that, you can see from the podcast medium, people are calling their YouTube videos that they record podcasts now. And I'm like, no, dude, it's not a podcast, but
right.
It is just, that medium is just transferring. And because, our generation on into the younger generation, they don't care what cable is. I mean, they're a Netflix, Hulu, Amazon video generation. They're a generation of streamers. So as long as YouTube can keep the big wigs happy and give them money, and as long as YouTube can sustain itself as far as getting paid, by multiple viewers and advertisements, I think it'll do nothing but thrive.
Yeah. And that's kind of where I think that's kind of where YouTube is there, because it actually is an additional medium. It's an additional video medium. It's an on-demand video medium, right? And it's still free. Sometimes you have to invest your time because you got to sit there and work with those stinking ads that pop up in front or in the middle of things. But I think it's an additional medium that and you're right, it could be without a doubt pushed by all of those companies, just because it's there and it's just permeating everything, and it's available on every phone, every mobile device, really. So it's kind of just everywhere, man. It's kind of just everywhere.
Without those ads, I would have never heard of full contact skydiving.
What? That's the first time I've ever heard of it.
Man, some of these ads.
There was some YouTube ads, and there's a website. There's a former UFC guy, or I don't know if he's former or still is. Wasn't it Uriah Faber? I don't really watch UFC, but I saw these ads, and it's crazy. They train in those.
Oh, Uriah Faber, yeah.
Skydiving test chambers things. Those wind tunnels. They train in those, and then they jump out of an airplane with a referee and a camera guy and fight on the way down.
It's just the dumbest thing ever.
Yeah,
that's the dumbest thing ever.
I'm sorry. I think I tweeted this today. I probably put it in drafts because I got to formulate my thoughts before I tweet something. But I'm like, humanity is getting so smart that it's becoming stupid. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like the Wall-E movie. Like, like on Wall-E, where they had got so advanced with so much technology. And, I know I'm making satire of it, but at the same time, they had gotten so obese and so dependent on all the technology, they just became stupid, slow, and just ridiculously, total dependent upon everything around them, and I just see that's where the human race is going. It's just crazy.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But I
I mean, we're
digress.
trying to automate. Yeah, we're trying to automate everything around us, man. And the thing is, if we program these machines and automate them to think and value what we value, then it's going to be problematic. It's gonna be prove real problematic because you're gonna see a lot of biases. Yeah, because once it's in code, dog, you can't go in and account for personality. You can't go in and account for inflection or tone. Once it's in code execution, dog, it's just a command line. So, and the problem is that, let me back up. If you've been listening to the news in the past week, then you know that Michael Brown was a young African-American male who, we'll get into videos and stuff, who was shot to death with his hands up, surrendering to police, unarmed, and that's a problem. That's a problem. I watched the Melissa Harris Perry show, and she's on NBC. Extremely intelligent woman, and of course she had NBC staffers doing all of her research for her. So they found that from 2006 through 2012, a white police officer killed a black citizen 2 times a week, every single week. 2 times a week, every single week. I don't know if you can say that for everyone else. Like I said, it may have been deserved. I don't know. But all I know is that in the past month, there have been 3 people who have been, 3 African Americans, unarmed, who've been killed by police. Straight up, just killed. All right. So it's a problem. Now, people will say, well, what happened? What happened? What happened? Well, let's just go in a chronological order, which we had information, right? So I listened to This Week in Blackness. If you don't listen to it, I highly recommend it. Oh, by the way, this show won't cover much else. This is a very heavily Afrocentric show. So if you don't want to hear that, then deuces, will holler at you next week. But so what happened is that, according to a witness statement, and not just a witness statement from the sidelines, the person who was walking with Michael Brown, his friend, right? His friend said that they were walking in the street. Officer pulled up, said, "Look here, it's a problem. What are you doing? Get out of the street." He was jaywalking. Fine. They said, "We're less than a block away from our destination. Let's just keep it moving." And then they continued to walk. Guess they were still jaywalking in the street. He pulled up and ran up close to them on the car and tried to jump out of the car, open his door. And then apparently the officer said that he hit the door back in, but he opened it really close to Michael Brown, and the door came in. So then he reached out and tried to pull him into the car, at which point I believe that the officer stated that he was trying to reach his gun, or maybe the police department stated that he was trying to reach his gun.
Yeah, if you read the original reports and the original video that was actually recorded, it basically bared out that the officer said that he tried to reach inside of the car and take his weapon, and I just don't see that happen, especially when you're pushing somebody with a door. Why would somebody try to reach inside and take your gun? But nevertheless, that's what they said. Then they said that the officer proceeded to get out of the car. This is where the testimonies match up. Everybody says that the officer said he had that he had his weapon drawn. The eyewitness, I can't think of the young girl's name, Tiffany Henderson, I believe, says that that the officer had his weapon drawn, and the other gentleman that was walking with Mr. Brown said that he had his weapon drawn also. So we do know, based on all 3 testimonies, that the officer had his weapon drawn when he exited the vehicle to go after the victim. In this case, whether to arrest him or whether to, I guess, whatever, have a conversation with him, either or. We know that he had his weapon drawn at that point. And so from there, it was basically said by the witness testimony that Michael Brown proceeded to remove himself from the scene. The officer fired a shot and hit Michael Brown in the back, and he was already bleeding, because they said as the officer got out of the car, he fired 1 shot, and I don't know whether or not he got hit in the first shot, but definitely the second shot that the officer fired, he definitely got hit, and he fell to the ground, turned around, and of course, they said he had some words. Some people say he said, he raised his hands up and said, don't shoot me, I don't have a weapon, etc., etc. Then he said that the officer proceeded to shoot him, and it wasn't at point blank range or anything like that. So I don't see how the officer could have had any threat towards his life because it wasn't at point blank range. In the autopsy, there was no gunpowder found on Michael Brown's clothing, neither on his body. So that would suggest that this was not at point blank range. So that would also suggest that there was no struggle between the victim and also the officer. Right. No gunpowder found on the victim at all. So he had to have shot him from some type of range, given the fact that both testimonies declared that he was running from the officer and he got hit at the time. So I don't know how you can have a struggle when you're not at point blank range against somebody.
Right. And
hold on, I got one more. And then also there wasn't the officer said that he was struck in the face, and there's no evidence that he had been touched at all.
Yeah, according to reports released today.
Well, they did say that he did go into. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh no! According to Vlad Tama, he actually sent me some documentation. He sent me a link to an article, and I read it today. That the officer has a fractured orbital bone because apparently he was struck. But again, the witness statements don't mention that he was struck at any point in time.
And so what's a fractured orbital bone?
It's around your nose, right?
Yeah, it's the eye socket, really. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So it's the whole eye socket. Yeah. Yeah. And
that may be the case. I mean, I'm not going to totally discredit the officer's testimony, because that actually may be the case when you think about from the eyewitness testimony, when the officer backed up and nearly, I guess, hit them because they were so close to them. When the witness said that the officer reached forth. Right. Well, the witness that was walking with Mr. Brown said that he reached out to grab Mr. Brown's neck because he was the closest one to the actual door. And I was like, well, how can a squad car? How can you reach up and grab somebody's neck? But again, it was corroborated that the police driver was not driving a squad car. He was actually driving a truck. So Mr. Brown being 6'3", I can see somebody reaching out of a SUV or out of a truck, reaching for somebody's neck, and he jerked back and he probably punched him in the face. I mean, he shouldn't have, but then again, the officer shouldn't have grabbed him at any point, right? Because they weren't doing anything. I mean, if you're going to arrest him, then say that I'm going to arrest you. Give a person a warning. Give a person a some type of signification saying, well, you're going to jail for jaywalking, or turn around, or put your hands up, or whatever. Don't grab anybody by the neck if you're trying to do that.
Right. And go ahead.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say something. You just stopped.
Yeah, I thought it was just me. I think you cut out a little bit, Knox, and I think that was because of. Okay, you're good. Go ahead, Knox. Yeah, I think you accidentally muted yourself, man.
Oh, I was trying to mute myself because I was done talking, but yeah, I mean, he tried to grab him. Maybe if he did hit the officer, based on the officer's testimony, that wasn't justified, but neither was the latter. But I think that a lot of times when we're talking as far as in media and as far as regular conversations, we get off on this rabbit trail, or we get throw these red herrings. When you talk about what happened, somebody died and somebody didn't die. Somebody didn't have a gun and somebody had a gun. Somebody's laying on the ground in a face forward position as if they fell face forward. Somebody has 6 shots in them and the other person has none. So let's look at the basic facts. Okay, so let's not talk about the kid's past and what happened as far as an altercation. You're an officer of the law. I don't care if a person cusses you out. I don't care if a person ever. I mean, we have been called to do jobs at our that didn't give me free reign to cuss somebody else out or to cuss the customer out. No, because the officer's there to protect and serve. Mm-hmm. And I mean, if he hit the officer, then the officer should have said, "Hey, you're under arrest. You have just assaulted an officer. Get on the ground." Or I don't know. I mean, then draw your weapon and say, "Hey, get on the ground. You're under arrest." None of that stuff. Even the police testimony, he did not say to any time, "You're under arrest." I told the victim that he was under arrest. He did not comply, etc., etc. I mean, so what? Right. I mean, you're an officer of the law.
What was clear to me, I mean, I'm not a law enforcement officer, but I'm just going to say that some protocol was not followed in this particular situation, because obviously you have steps of escalation and rules of escalation and rules of engagement when a situation escalates. But if you are the person escalating the situation, then who as a law enforcement official do you then become accountable to? See, to me, that's a problem. That's where the problem lies. And for me, like, I want to get out all the facts, and there are a lot of facts, but I'm just going to say this, man. Simply put, like, Ferguson, this event in Ferguson is not rare, and that's a sad commentary on the state of our society and I guess our sociological mindset. Because anytime there was a video I watched today online, and I will try my best to link everyone in the show, and they did a little experiment, and they're called the social misfits, or the something misfits. It's just a white guy and a black guy. That's it, just them. And they were like, we're gonna do a little experiment. We're gonna try to break into this car and see how people react. For 30 minutes, the white guy tried to break into the car. A policeman pulled up right beside him as the alarm went off, the alarm was going off, and kept rolling. But the black man did it. Alarm didn't even hit. The alarm went off once, but then after that, 2 minutes, dog. In 2 minutes. In 2 minutes, the police officer came and started cussing him out. What the F are you doing?
5.
Yeah. 5 minutes? 5 minutes. Okay. Okay.
No,
dude.
No, it was 2 minutes, but it was 5 police officers.
Oh, was it 5 police officers? And in 2 minutes. So this one dude did it for 30 minutes. The alarm went off literally in the video about 6 times, right? The alarm when the black dude did it only went off like once or twice. And he was thrown up against the wall with handcuffs on. He's like, the officer, it's my car. He's like, get up against the wall. He wasn't even trying to hear it. And okay, so what I'm trying to explain to people here, friends like Golf Rat and everyone who don't understand. Now, Golf Rat is a proponent saying that, if there were cameras on both sides, then both sides would have behaved differently. To a point, I agree with that. Sure, because I'm not saying that Michael Brown, because there was video evidence released later, and this is what's odd, right? So I'm gonna divert the tangent, because this to me is the most inconsistent thing I've ever heard in my life.
Before you move on, let me say this. I've seen another video that very similar to the one that you talked about about breaking into the car. I've seen another video about stealing a bike, and it was just a guy with a hacksaw trying to saw off a chain, right? Right. And the white guy, people were coming up to him asking him, hey, is that your bike? And he was just like, yeah, I'm just trying to get my chain off, whatever like that. And people just kind of left him alone. The moment the black guy started going with that saw, people were coming up, they were taking pictures of him, they were calling on the phone, like they were doing everything. And then they switched it up. And they had a pretty white lady do it, and people offered to help her.
Yeah, I'm sure.
People offered to help her saw off this chain. Like, so it was. And they were all basically, it was the exact same situation in all 3 cases, but there were 3 very different outcomes. And like I said, with the white lady, them offering to help her do it is crazy talk.
Yeah.
But the moment the black guy started, people were irate.
Right. And like for me, like here's the thing that happened. I'm like, I say when you say that there's a prejudice and a bias against people of color in this country, this is what we mean. Okay? So this is what happened. The day that the officer's name was released, Darren Wilson, who was the officer who shot and killed Michael Brown. Let's just call it how it is. The day it was released, they ended up releasing a video of Mike Brown, and it went around for a while, for a few hours. People didn't know if that was technically him, but his friend who submitted an eyewitness testimony at the time said that and confirmed that yes, indeed, that was us. But here's the thing. At the time when that came out, the police chief was asked, so is that why the officer acted on Brown as the way he did? He said, no, it had absolutely nothing to do with it. Then come to find out today, a few days later, that he said, oh yes, well, the Officer Wilson informed us that the reason he stopped him, he did receive the communique and he saw the cigarillos in his hand or whatnot. Because we didn't get around to explaining it, but Mike Brown apparently had stole some cigarettes forcibly from a store, him and his friend. And he was unarmed, and he kind of just bullied the clerk and got his way out of there. Understand, I'm not here to condone any of that.
I don't condone anything as far as a strong arm robbery. Right. But he actually paid the gentleman in the store. The altercation, and if you look at the video, the altercation was because I guess the clerk didn't feel like he paid him enough or whatever. But you see the video, he actually paid for that stuff. Then there was an altercation, exchanging some words. Then you can see Mike Brown, he got a little bit aggressive, and then he took, I guess, more than what he had already paid for, or I guess there was some issue going on about how much it cost or whatever. Right. But nevertheless, I mean, that issue is irrelevant, regarding, because the first, this is the first rule of anything. You go with the first testimony from all the witnesses, from all parties. The first witness testimony of the officers, the first witness testimony of the friend and the young lady that saw the altercation. The reason why is because people say exactly what they saw, and usually it's about 98% accurate, because
Knox, are we getting?
Yeah.
Or did he fall out?
He blinked out on me.
Okay.
Speak whatever they saw when it's immediate. No lawyers are involved. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Yeah, you kind of blinked out a little.
I got you. Yeah, you blinked out for a second. Yeah, we got you. Hey, Knox.
Blue, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I don't know. Okay, yeah, I mean, so it just, when you get it first testimonies or those first videos or, the first whatever, those are usually the most honest, accurate, and truthful, because, a person doesn't have time to get a lawyer, a person doesn't have time to go back to the precinct and get coached on what to say, et cetera, et cetera. So, you use those first testimonies, and the first testimony was Darren Wilson, the officer that shot Michael Brown, did not know about any robbery or any cigarillos or anything like that or whatever that had gone out. He just stopped these young men, and whether he said whatever he said or not, whether he said, get the F on the sidewalk or move off the sidewalk, other than that, I mean, these young men weren't doing anything wrong. And they informed the officer, we're not but maybe a couple minutes away from our destination, and we're walking up here. And this is the same corroboration. The officer proceeded to leave, but I guess he got frustrated because he saw him still walking in the street, backed his vehicle up, slid on the side of him, very, very close. The altercation ensued from there.
And what I'll say is that here's the thing. So I have kids, right? So if my son tells me a story one day, right, and then he comes back the next day and changes his story up about that. So say he tells me two stories on Tuesday, right, and he comes back on Thursday and then he changes both stories, right? Am I gonna believe either one of those stories? No, like I'm just not. And this is why I'm saying I'm having a tough time taking anything that the media brings and taking anything that it's because they're getting all the information from the press conferences, and that information has been utterly inconsistent, right? So that's why I'm having a tough time taking this in. But this is what I want people to explain. Now Jason, aka Golf Raider, who could not be here, he mentioned, as I said, that if both sides wore cameras, it would have changed the behavior on both sides. I'll tell you this: we as a society have cameras. We have cameras on almost all of our cell phones now have cameras. We have cameras in rampant amounts. That's not the issue. The issue is when we do try to record, and there are literally hundreds, maybe thousands of videos on YouTube right now.
Thousands.
Of people trying to, of people recording videos of officers just doing things foul, right, and officers being abusive to the people, but even though we have the right to do so. Right. So that's what and what I want Jason to understand is that when one party, and like I said, I'm not condoning any law breaking that may have gone on or strong arming of anyone, but all I'm saying is that if you're sitting there with your hands up and you're saying don't shoot, and you've stopped movement, you haven't escalated the situation, and you still are shot, how can person A, if they're doing that, improve their behavior anymore? Okay? Then it is incumbent upon person case, Officer Wilson, to behave in a manner becoming of an officer. But what we see so many times in America and around the world, but generally in America for the African American people in particular, is the fact that we are assumed to be violators of the law. You know that innocent until proven guilty, that's for two people, dude. That's for the white and the rich. That's not for the black. It's not for the medium, for the middle class. It's not. And I will tell you, as a kid growing up in high school, as a kid who had straight A's in high school, was on a football, basketball, and every other team for the school, never had any problems whatsoever. Dude, if I congregated anywhere with two or more of my friends, we had to leave. The black people had to leave, but 3 blocks away on Main Street, you could have people who are not of our skin color drive speed up and down Main Street on a hourly basis every weekend for years on end and never get anything said to them. That is the world that we live in, that people aren't understanding. They don't understand.
Let's think about. Hold on, wait. Let's think about not just the world that we live in. Let's think about the world that they live in, because a lot of people say, a lot of people talk about the looting and the rioting and all of that kind of stuff, and they say, well, we don't do that and all that kind of stuff. And please, but if I hear one more person say white people don't riot, I'm going to scream. White people rioted when Joe Paterno got fired. Yeah. Think about this. That dude got fired because he pushed somebody who was messing with kids. He pushed that he swept that under the rug for the sake of his football program. He got fired when it all came out, and there was a riot. So, right. So, and that's much less of a thing than someone dying for this.
Yeah, exactly.
But let's look at Ferguson, Missouri, just in general. Like what they said is 67% black.
Yep, 2/3. Yep, sir.
Out of the city council, they said 6 or 7 of them. 1 of them is black. Out of the whole police force in Ferguson, Missouri, they have 3 black police officers.
I thought it was 5, and then they have 1 Hispanic and then 2 Asian Pacific Islanders, right?
Yeah, well, that's right. Yeah. The dude said something like that. Yeah, like, come on, son. Like, right. You know, we got a China, we got a Chinaman, we got like that's pretty much like how he was saying it. Like we got a couple of blacks, we got a Chinaman, we got an Indian. I mean, Native American. Like he was just kind of saying it in that manner. But you're.
You guys hear me? Hello.
Yeah, what you saying?
Oh, you guys hear me? I'm trying to make sure you can hear me.
What you saying? Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, we got you.
No, I'm just saying, I mean, what world do these people live in? And that's what I really just with is like where this double standard is not a part of your world, or
there you go mute.
I know. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, you keep going in and out.
Yeah, you keep going in and out.
All right, okay. Go ahead. I'm trying to fix my situation.
Okay. No. What I'm saying is like you have all of these people And whether it's what I mean, you can point the finger and you can say it might be a little bit of their fault. I mean, for not voting and not going for it. But you have this majority of people who have no representative in lawmaking and law enforcement.
Right.
And they probably feel like they're under the thumb of a regime that doesn't care about them at all. What happened here, and the looting and the rioting, it's not, this wasn't their first. This wasn't the first thing that they thought of. Right. What happened with Mike Brown was the last straw, and which is probably just a systematic, just beating of these people. And at some point, you can keep beating these people down, and you can keep them under your thumb, and at some point, just something is going to happen, and these people as a whole are going to say enough. And that's pretty much what happened here. And then also, Bomani Jones poured his idea of it is this. Part of the problem was the police response. Mm-hmm. Like, so this is what I'm getting. I'm getting this information third hand. So, Mike Brown is shot and is near an apartment complex. Those people come out of the apartment complex, and they don't necessarily go away. This all happens on Saturday. Mm-hmm. This all happens on a Saturday, which means that the people who really make the decisions probably have the day off. So that means somebody has to call a superior.
Right. I remember this. Yes.
Yeah. Somebody has to call a superior, and in calling that superior, they have to explain what's going on so that they can get the proper response from the big dog to tell them what to do.
Right. Exactly.
So, whatever the response, whatever the story was, that whoever the supervisor, whoever was given, his response was call everybody, bring the tanks, bring the dogs, bring the riot gear, call everybody.
Right, bring the dogs, dogs.
Right, and like when the first images, especially of the dogs, I mean, it looked very much like the '60s. Like, I thought. Yeah, like Bomani said, like, who knew they still had German Shepherds on the payroll?
For real, like they don't do much. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
go ahead.
Well, I can go into a larger, whole diatribe about the police stating of the United States of America, but I won't go that far.
Yeah, but we waged so much war with these Arab countries. We had all of this equipment that nobody knew what to do with, so that the government just decided, let's give it to the police officers. So of course, it's just like anything, right? It's just like anything. If I go to your house, and I give each of your sons a BB gun and say, this is for emergency only. Mm-hmm. How long is it going to be before each of your sons, who are both young, are going to decide, I need to find a reason to use this gun. Like, yeah. I'm not just gonna let this sit here. I'm not just gonna let this sit here. Like when police officers have tanks and when police officers have sniper rifles, like what part of the game is this? Like what part of the game where your local police department needs a sniper rifle?
Right. Dude, and okay. Just we're gonna get into their response. We're gonna get into and somebody had to tell him, look, man, it's going down out here. Call everybody, but not even that. And so you were talking about at some point these people have to have a breaking point, right? At some point these people have to have a breaking point. But what I think America fails to realize, and when I say America, the majority of America, okay, the majority being like the majority ethnic group, right? What I think goes on in the conversation that they fail to realize is what we have to endure on a daily basis. And we talk about TWIB, and people talk about stop and frisk, and they talk about racial profiling, and they talk about these things. And if you open your ears and just listen to, like, for instance, how the Republican Party tries to reach out and talk to African Americans, right? How they say, well, let's talk to issues that are important to you. Let's talk about child welfare. Let's talk about single moms. Let's talk about drug abuse. Let's talk about athletics. And so they make all of these ridiculous assumptions, and they buy into the stereotypes and use those to communicate to us. And the reason they try to use the stereotype to communicate to us is because they don't take the time to get to know us, because they're too scared of us based upon the stereotypes they're using to define us. That's a problem.
Well, I'm not saying that it's not their fault, but also this is all about and this is an overarching issue of the double standard. I mean, let's just face it. I mean, there are double standards with a lot of things. I work in corporate America. I work for a bank that resides in America, and let's and I have to go there and I have to give 110%. I have had counterparts in the same business area that I've been in that have been blatantly taking drugs. I mean, you can literally, the guy reeks of them. He has come in with multiple injuries multiple times because of whatever wild night he's had and everything else. And he's not of my skin color, but he was allowed to keep his job for the latter part of 6 months until a full investigation was done. And so much as where he was selling drugs, or I guess prescription pharmacy drugs, to other employees. And so that was the straw that broke the camel's back. But
Wow.
Let me miss out on a report, or let me call in sick, and if I don't bring documentation, that could be grounds for a write-up.
Right.
That could be grounds for termination. In so much as the fact that I literally have to be 110% perfect, and if I'm not perfect, I have to provide 100% of documentation that covers my butt. And if I don't, then I'm not given the same leniency that my counterparts are given.
Right.
And that goes to this special case. Is like people are and it just boggles my mind. But I don't understand, and that's why I wish there was someone on here from a different perspective, because I would really like to poke and prod and probe and try to figure out, how does a person come to a reasoning where you literally say it's justified that a person gets shot 6 times who is unarmed.
Mm-hmm.
It's totally justified. And okay, so what justifies it? Does the cursing out of an officer, not that I'm condoning the behavior, but I'm asking a question. Does the cursing out of an officer justify getting shot? Does the punching of an officer justify getting shot? Does your inability to stop and halt justify getting shot? And when I say getting shot, I mean getting shot 6 times,
Mm-hmm.
and 2 to your frontal lobe. I mean, to me, that just sounds like
Yeah. Knox, you still there?
you say that.
You faded out again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're good. You're back.
I don't know. My internet connection is great. I don't know what's going on. It's crazy.
It's probably mine.
No,
Please.
I'm just basically saying, like, if you put this down there on paper, and you took all the creeds and cultures away, and you say judge between these two, I would literally, I just want to ask, how do you justify somebody getting gunned down when the person has a weapon and the person doesn't have a weapon? A person has surrendered, his hands are up. He has been subdued in so much as the fact that he's bleeding, and he's also pleading for his life, or for his surrender. And then, yeah, based on the report, somebody said, yeah, that's justified. Are you kidding me? How do you justify that? I just really want to know, as a fellow human being, if you're anything humane, how do you justify that? That's what I want to know.
And to be honest, like it's no matter how you look at it, it even if you think that I'm sorry, the calling what he did a robbery is a gross exaggeration. Like it comes down to two things, right? This thing could have started either because of shoplifting, which, come on, son, or it can either is shoplifting or jaywalking. How does that end up with someone dying? That's my whole thing. Like either, it starts with those two things. If you even for one believe that officer had any inkling of the shoplifting, because I refuse to call it a robbery. Mm-hmm. It was shoplifting. Basically, the dude had about what? You're saying that he deserved to die over stealing $5 worth of cigars?
Right, and
you know what I mean? Like, yeah. So it's either shoplifting or jaywalking, and for some reason, someone felt like that was worth this starting and eventually ending with him dying.
Right. It again, like it's. I just want to pose a question, we don't have to talk about it, but like, why are we considered a threat? Why are we considered a threat? I said on Melissa Harris Perry's show, she had 4 guests on her panel, and 3 of the 4 people said, "What does it feel like? What is it like to be a black man in America today?" And 3 out of 4 of them said a threat, because for some reason, and it doesn't matter, like it matters why, but it won't change because people constantly view us as threatening.
We've been sold to the American people as a threat.
Exactly.
And we continue. You kind of get people riled up when you mention the fact that we kind of do a lot of this stuff to ourselves. With the black on black issues and stuff like that. But then They say, well, black on black has nothing to do with this. Yeah, I think so. When this whole thing first started, one of the people who was the most outraged on my Facebook timeline was the same person that does nothing but post World Star and fight videos all day long.
Exactly.
And I'm like, well, you post these videos of a certain section of Black America acting like animals. Mm-hmm. and treating each other like animals, and then you get mad when someone sees us as an animal.
Right.
How can you be upset when all you did now, if there's anybody who doesn't understand Black America that follows you on Facebook, all they see is the worst of us all day, every day. Yeah. People turn on the TV, and because we don't have any control over the media, all they see is the worst of us, worst depictions of us, and fictional depictions of the worst of us. Yeah. And it's not even this is what they see day in and day out, and at the end, this is what they see on TV, is what they hear in the music, it's what they see in movies, in all media, in almost all media. We are a monolith, mm-hmm. and we are less than human, as seen in a lot of cases. Come on, there's about to be a movie based off of ancient Egypt, and none of the people, like the kings and queens and all of that kind of stuff, none of them are Black. This is ancient Egypt,
and that's problematic.
In Africa, none of us are seen as, Sigourney Weaver plays a queen in this movie.
No, man, get out of here.
As I understand it, this is what I've heard. Now, me personally, I'm not the one that's gonna get all outraged about it. I'm just gonna be like, well, I'm not gonna see that movie.
Right.
And you know, that's the best thing. That's the best thing for everybody involved. You just say, I'm not gonna see this movie, and I urge, if you care about such things, don't go see the movie. And let's just call it a day. If we affect their pockets, then they might do something about it. But until we really affect pockets. You know, like that's
because see this kind of goes back to what Blue was talking about. This is a technique called jamming, and what you do in jamming is that this is propaganda that you use, and you just like you iterated, you jam the airwaves, you jam the podosphere, podcasting sphere, you jam YouTube, World Star, the lowest of the lowest. You show images of just the lowest common denominator you can, and you flood it, and you make it either funny, satirical, or you make it just devastatingly violent and disgusting, because humans will quite naturally spread the word when either one of those things go on. But you jam some in particular group or creed or culture so much, and then eventually that perception becomes the reality in the society's mind. Mm-hmm. Now the smart few that don't receive the propaganda are usually the vocal minority, or either the quiet minority that is like, look, that's just a shame, that's not true, because guess what? That whole tagline of perception is reality, that is a farce that ever got created from anywhere. Like that is not true. Perception is not reality, because reality is that which responds to truth. And the truth of the matter is that we're three intelligent brothers on here. I know multiple people in the entire community that I currently live in. I mean, more than 80% of my neighborhood is black, but this is a nice neighborhood. It's not affluent by any means. But at the same time, we're all educated. We're normal people. We have children. We love. We move about and do things in our daily lives that we get value out of. But that type of stuff is never shown. That type of stuff is never shown. And I just ask the very large mass majority, do you ever ask questions, or are you totally oblivious to this? Like, do you think that there is not a double standard and everything is just fair? Like, if you believe that, then I would just ask you to study, research, and just find out the truth, because like this stuff is not truth.
Right, and to that, I'll say this one thing, and then I'll move on to a separate point and talk about the responses, because there was a Marine who actually had a very good response. But
I saw that.
Yeah, and so there's this one on Melissa Harris Perry's show. One of the guys said he actually was a white scholar, and he said that the problem is that when a person who is not of color, when a Caucasian person goes out and does something, then we just look at it as like, well, that one person is crazy, or that one person is off. It's something wrong with them, with that one person. But let an African American do it, then it's like it's an overgeneralization of the entire race. Like all of them are like that, and that's a problem, and that's something that people have to separate. We deserve the same amount of respect and consideration when something happens, because I'm not like everybody else. I strongly believe there's only one like me. And so I don't believe you can overgeneralize me and put me in a box, because that's just not it.
Okay, question. Let me ask you a question.
Okay.
Is the onus on them to separate us from them? I mean, yes. us from that bad element, or is it on us to say to separate ourselves? Because I don't think at this point, it's obvious they're never going to see us as different until we see us as different, and we actually section off. Because no other ethnic group doesn't rope off those people. Like you see people talking. You see white people. They address trailer trash and rednecks and stuff like that. They put them in their own box. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
they put them in their own box. So is it on Is it on them to separate? Let's be honest. To separate black people and niggers, or is it on us to say we are not niggers?
Well, here's the thing. Haven't we been doing that for years? Haven't we been trying to separate and distinguish ourselves for years?
But
my question is, and like to answer your question, it's a little bit of both, right?
Okay.
Because I believe people should carry themselves away in a way that they want to be seen, because that's how it is. How you carry yourself is how people will view you. But on the flip side, I believe that people shouldn't jump to conclusions, overgeneralize, and categorize people because they're too lazy or too scared or too unwilling to learn about those people enough to really form a strong and valid opinion about them.
Right. And Scar, to your point, I would say, and this is just me coming from a Christian perspective. I hope, I would like for it to be, if I can make the case stronger, that other cultures or races or creeds could see us for what we truly are, and they would find out the truth, and they would be able to separate and make that divide between the isolated crazy people and the vast majority of normal people. But as much as I want or wish or desire that, I know that's not going to happen. Right. So and it's terribly hard being a black man, being the stature that I am. I mean, I'm not a small guy, I'm not a big guy either, but at the same time, I can understand a 40-year-old white lady, and I've done this before, and not to bring up Trayvon Martin or like that or whatever, but I literally had a hoodie that was bought by my wife. It has the headphones coming out of the inside of it, where you can put the headphones in, and it's built into the actual hoodie.
That's cool.
In the wintertime, and maybe you can get on me for doing this, maybe I shouldn't do it, maybe I should, whatever. But to avoid controversy and to avoid somebody getting scared and shooting me, I take that thing off. I personally wear short sleeve shirts walking to the store. I shouldn't have to do that. That's a personal choice, because I do live in Texas.
The same reason why I don't own a hoodie,
right?
Or anything that looks like a hoodie. Right,
exactly, and that's a sad case,
because I'm 6'3", 320.
Yeah.
I walk into a place, and I scare people. Like, like, there's no other way to put it, right? I'm probably. I mean, to be honest, I scare people until I start talking. Like, because there ain't no real bass in my voice, so I diffuse people that way, because ain't no real bass in my voice. So I'm like, I walk in a place, and until I open my mouth and say something to someone, I am intimidating.
But you shouldn't be, though, because if there's another 6 foot, 320 pound, guy who's not an African American, they're gonna be like, bless his heart, he probably need to hit the treadmill. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not gonna be that same threat. And and what it does, like these predispositions, which are technically prejudices, like that's what they are. Also,
I'm lying. I'm 5'11".
Yeah, see, there you go. Yeah, you're just trying to bump up a couple of inches. Yeah. But the problem is, but the problem is that people respond wrong, and the responses on both sides of this issue were wrong. First of all, Tyson Manker, he's a Marine who served a couple of tours in Afghanistan. He came back and they interviewed him. He was walking down the street, kind of like walking in protest of this.
Yeah, he was with the protesters.
Yeah, he was with the protesters in full uniform dress, and he had his patches. He had everything. And he said there should be no tanks in U.S. communities. It's absurd. It's just flat out. It's absurd. Why are you bringing tanks in? Yes, I understood people looted the store. That was a problem. That's what we should not have done, because in no way does that honor the death of Michael Brown and help bring that community together. And in no way does that alleviate the pain and the hurt that's going on right then. In no way does that happen. Unless you're talking about that 32-inch TV you picked up might help you, but that ain't it. You know what I'm saying?
But I'll take you back, and if you don't know if you don't know your history, then you're destined to repeat it. And
Yeah.
I'll also take you to a little bit of truth, is that we don't know our history, and our own U.S. government and many large conglomerates have said these words: "Never waste a crisis." So what does that mean? That means that St. Louis is a centralized hub of a predominantly black area. The police state agenda has been going on since really put into effect ever since like the late 50s. Well, every time you draw a little bit closer, and it's all about the 1%, and it's about the high-end people getting what they want. They want to feel safe. They want to feel comforted. Because guess what? Right. Because you jam into their minds that the only way you're going to be safe is if we have cameras. The only way you're going to be safe is if we have more guns. The only way you're going to be safe is if we monitor everybody. You see? So you bring in these tanks and everything else or whatever, because that shows the American people that we're making you safe from the riffraff that can cause you harm. But herein lies the actual problem, is that innocent bystanders, like, I mean, dude, this has been like the third or fourth time I've broke down crying just looking at my sons. And I started to record a video, and I still might actually do it, because Scar, you have a daughter, Blue, you have sons that are older than mine, that are more susceptible to the threat and the imminent danger of some trigger happy police officer doing whatever. And I would just ask every gun owner, right? I was looking up some very interesting numbers. Predominantly black people, we're not gun toters as a whole.
No, we're not.
No.
We don't tote guns. We don't harbor weapons. But if you were to ask somebody, I guarantee you, if you were to ask somebody who has the most weapons in their neighborhood, I bet you a resounding amount of percentages would say the black community. Yes. And if you read the actual real numbers, even if you go to the unregistered numbers, right, of amount of firearms, the Caucasian neighborhoods historically and predominantly have the most weapons.
Yeah.
We don't carry weapons for the most part.
No, we don't. And the reason we don't carry weapons is because we're already viewed as a threat. If we're an armed threat, then that's even worse. Like, that's even worse. Like, people are getting shot and killed, choked out, dude, and they don't even have any weapons on them.
Yeah, my man in New York got killed over selling Lucy's.
For real. Eric Gardner, rest in peace.
Right. And then the brother, okay, now I ain't gonna lie, the brother who got killed in Ohio for waving around the airsoft gun. I'm sorry, player. You should. There's a part of you that should have known better, because you're waving around that gun at kids, and there is nothing on that gun that looks like it's a toy. Like, there's no orange on it. There's no orange on it. There's no nothing. You need to be aware that you're a black man in Ohio waving around a gun that looks kind of like an AR-15 to any innocent bystander.
But to that point, you have a militarized police force, a state police, pointing loaded guns at citizens who are protesting under their First Amendment rights, mind you. They're protesting under their rights, and they're unarmed. At what point does this stop? First, you bring in dogs and riot gear. The only thing that was missing from this whole equation, dog, was the fire hose. That was it.
Oh, did you see the newscaster that suggested why? She's sitting there next to a brother on the news desk, and she said, "Why don't they use high pressure water cannons?"
Did she really say that?
She said it on the air.
Dude, I mean, you could tell that the dude kind of got like, he looked at her so crazy.
He looked at her like, "Are you serious?" And then he closed his eyes like, "I can't afford to lose my job today." and there was no retraction to that at all.
Dude, even when the Black Panthers marched with guns, like, you didn't have tanks. You didn't have tanks. You had dogs. You had dogs biting the mess out of people. You had high pressure water hoses. You had policemen beating people. What's the difference now? Aren't we supposed to be American citizens now? Aren't we supposed to have more rights now? Yeah. Didn't Dr. King die for us to live together in a world where we didn't have to worry about the color of your skin, but the content of your character now? But look at what's happening in Ferguson. Like, you go tell that to them cats out there. You go tell that to the 66% of African American people out there who are the majority of the community, but are constantly oppressed by a police force that A, don't know how to take rule power, don't know how to use power appropriately. B, because they are not of the same subcultural experience, don't know how to communicate with people. And C, they've already inbred a dislike toward authority within that community. And I'm gonna say this about Bill O'Reilly, man. You need to go. Man,
stop. No, you know what? You just said Bill O'Reilly. There's the Bill O'Reilly thing is damn near like, you know, like how they say, like, if you're talking about people and you're talking about how bad people are, the first person to mention Hitler loses. I think the first person, I think at this point, the first person that mentions like Rush Limbaugh or Bill O'Reilly or one of those dudes loses. Just leave it. Just leave it.
Just let it go. Just let it go.
Just leave it. Just leave it alone, because you know what they're there for. In the same way, I was having a conversation with Rachel, aka Get Off My Planet, on Facebook, and she posted this picture, and somebody posted rules of, you know, how to deal with police and not get in trouble. And then she added, just being funny, she just added, and don't be black. And you know, we were going back and forth with her. You know, she was going back and forth with her mom, and you know, her mom is one of those people that just doesn't get it. Yeah. And like her mom like got to the point where she started mentioning like Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton. Like, yeah, I get where you're going there. I didn't even respond. I get where you're going there, but you're kind of missing the point.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you're kind of missing the point. And you know what? I 100% agree with her on Jesse. Sharpton. It depends on the situation, because sometimes Sharpton be coming with that heat, but you know, Sharpton has to come off like a clown, because we understand that we're black leaders. What happens to black leaders? You get too much power, and somebody gonna put a bullet through you.
Yeah, you get too much power, you sitting in somebody's scope sights, dog, for real.
Right.
You gotta watch.
I mean, but not only that, but let's not fool ourselves here. The predominant amount of the majority of our black leaders can only fight up until a certain point because they've been paid. And not only that, but they're in it for their own agenda also. Yeah. And, you know, they jump in so they can get paid too. You know, I mean, you know,
and also, look, check this out. Why are we the only people that need leadership? Like, can you name the white leaders?
Right.
I'll wait.
Yeah, you'll be waiting for a while.
Right. You know, like, why are we the only people that need this?
Man, it's by design, man. It's by design. You are put in this position to corral, quote unquote, your people whenever we need you to, and you're on a short leash. And when we need you to stop, then we'll pay you off, and somehow there'll be a press release, and everybody will be told to stand down.
I think we can tell. You can tell the difference between Sharpton and Jesse. What you know, the real difference with them, you can tell how each of them operate based off of one situation alone. Look at how they both handled the Duke lacrosse thing. Jesse showed up and said, "This is wrong. What happened to this lady?" He offered to pay for her college so she wouldn't have to strip no more. Right. And Al Sharpton just showed up and said, "All right, you know what? This is the situation. It is what it is. Let's try to get some facts, and let's come back to this when we understand what's really going on here." Turns out she was lying. Jesse had already gave her that money.
Right.
She exaggerated. I'm not saying that she was lying. She exaggerated. Something happened. It just wasn't what she said happened.
Right. And I can tell you what's going to happen here, though. You were talking about, you know, when it's going to go away. I'm going to tell you when it's going to go away. It's going to go away when this legal team loses this case. Because it's the same legal team that handled the Trayvon Martin case, and everybody in the world just knew that was a home run because as someone like me who's rudimentarily studied law, dude, I had more than enough evidence to be extremely effective in any courtroom with any jury with that evidence that was there in that case.
Yeah,
but you also had to. But also in the Trayvon Martin case, you had a jury that
was for the first time all female. Never happened in a case that big.
Yep.
Had never happened in a case that big. Not one time.
There was nobody on that jury that could empathize with Trayvon Martin at all.
Right. Exactly. And you hit the nail on the head, and that is a problem. But I think it was because I was listening to like the closing arguments, and their closing arguments. Scar, we've done better closing arguments on this show. So like, hey, for real, dog. Hey, I wish I was joking.
Yeah, I mean, because people will have this. I don't know if they. Again, I just don't understand the oblivious attitude, and I guess it's because I've always been taught to think for myself, and. Right. The oblivious attitude that says, well, I'm not a professional, so I can't determine whether or not what's wrong or right.
Yeah.
So let me get this straight. If the tables were turned and this was you, right? And you had to evaluate some circumstances for a family member or some circumstances for somebody that you knew, that you love and that you hold dear or whatever. You would leave it up to the personal prosecutor and the public defender. You wouldn't use a minute bit of your brain power to evaluate circumstances and evidence. Mm-hmm. Anybody can do that.
Yeah.
I don't care. Just because you go to school for 8 years, 12 years, or whatever, that doesn't mean that you don't have the basic material to be able to evaluate information.
Mm-hmm.
Are you kidding me? Like, how can you sit up and say, I'm not a professional, so I'm just going to leave it up to them? Like, you sound very stupid.
Yeah, you do, and that's the thing.
I mean, I'm sorry, I really don't have no other word. I can't call you ignorant because ignorant means that you don't know anything. Stupidity is when you know something but you refuse to use what you know.
Yeah, and here's the thing, man. Some people don't want to admit to it because it means that they're gonna have to come to grips with what they may be feeling or what they may be thinking, and it's a scary thought for a lot of people, right? A lot of people don't want that. They don't want to keep it 100, especially with themselves, let alone other people. So you can't expect, don't be disappointed if most people won't give that a try and won't give that a shot. But I'm here to tell you right now, it's the same attorney from a similar case a year ago. And what's gonna happen is the same thing. They're gonna lose a case, and they're gonna lose it unanimously. And that is just
I think that's
never happened.
I think the real thing is the only way that this is going to change. Because like a lot of people say, how is this going to change? Well, the main thing is like these cops, the people that are doing this stuff to these people, not just the cops, because you can put Zimmerman in this case too. Mm-hmm. These people need to really actually get punished for what they do, and as long as they're not getting punished for any of this, it's not going to stop. It's just going to keep happening, and it's going to keep happening to the same. It's going to happen to the same people in different areas.
Exactly, and this is kind of what I was telling Jason, is that look, man, there have been thousands, on probably hundreds of thousands, if we take the last 70 years worth of information. There have been thousands of cases where the entire altercation, the entire thing has been filmed. There's a video on YouTube that compiled cases just from 2014 alone. Full video. I'm talking about full blast video.
Mm-hmm.
And at the beginning of the video, and I researched about 16 of the 28 police officers that were on there, and all 16, hear me out, all 16 names of every officer got to keep their job. They got paid leave. Like this officer, Darren Wilson, he's currently suspended with pay, or I guess leave with pay, or whatever it is. And these are officers that have shot and killed people, choked people out. People are dead, not in jail somewhere, not badly beaten. People are dead, and this goes across the board. That video has multiple cultures, creeds, races, everything. People are dead, and people are still allowed to keep their jobs, receive pay, and keep going about their merry way. And a lot of them got raises.
Let me ask you a question. On that note, what do you think the distraction for this is going to be? Because we all know that, you know, people on the internet and stuff like that, they have very short attention spans. Usually, these types of things blow over in about 2 weeks. Trayvon Martin didn't, and I don't think this is going to, because of what's happening on the streets right now. You know, these cops are just shooting rubber bullets and throwing tear gas at regular people.
They raided a church today that had supplies for like all the people who are marching and you know protesting. They had supplies sent and bought for them from people throughout the country, and they raided the church that had the supplies. That was it. It. And it's. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And you know the brother that got killed in California, that you know he was handcuffed and laying down, and they shot him anyway. When that cop went up. The day of the decision, that was the day of the verdict, just happened to be the day of the LeBron decision, and nobody paid attention to what happened to this cop. So what do you think? What do you think the distraction is going to be for people not to pay attention to this? Like, really, in order for people, it's going to take something massive, right?
Oh no, it's not going to take something massive. It's just going to take the news cycle to tell you what it's going to be, and I can tell you what it's going to be. Here soon, everybody on that hill out back in Washington comes back to work. Done. That's it. That's all it's going to take. Yeah. Washington's back in session. That's all it takes. Oh, Washington's back in session. Let's get to talking about. They may mention gun control for the first day. Let's get to talking about these kids, man. They have their education. Let's get to talking about these war funds, man. Let's get to talking about Social Security.
ISIS, Hamas.
Yeah.
Let's talk about But I think the biggest red herrings are going to be the video from the convenience store. It's going to be all of Michael Brown's past. They're going to go back when he was 6 years old.
Oh yeah, because you know they did that. They drove Trayvon Martin through the mud,
dude. They are already making the wheels turn. They're picking out parts of the autopsy. Well, the autopsy also found that he had marijuana in his system. You know, so obviously he was a drug dealing, no good thug that deserved to die. Oh, it was justified. Yeah. And all these red herrings, and people are so incredibly oblivious to. I don't know.
No. Here's your argument right here, and you don't even have to elaborate. You don't have to use big words. You don't have to, because a lot of people are not going to pay attention to your big words, and they're just going to call you up. People are sheep, and it just so happens that we don't have good shepherds.
Yep, we don't. But
the best shepherds belong to like Fox News. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like, let's be 100% honest about it. Fox News has the best shepherds, but people in general they're just sheep. And
I'll tell you, the frustrating thing about this, man, is that, and Knox, you mentioned it today, but I wanted to say it, and Bomani pretty much said it as well. This stuff will continue to happen until people's hearts get changed. And there's nothing that anyone outside of, like, especially, like, you want to know why the civil rights movement, quote unquote, worked back in the day, is because it took people outside of the African American culture to actually give a rip. It took them to stand up and say something. It took them, because they were the people who were being valued, they were the people who were being listened to, they were the people who had the avenues of effectiveness to make change happen, right? So, you know what it's going to take for people to actually start caring about other people, about, all the other groups to start caring about Group A? It's gonna take people from the other groups to speak up and say this is wrong. It's gonna take people from other groups to say we need to do this, and we need to stay focused on this because this is important, because that's someone's kid, brother, uncle, aunt, niece, nephew. That's someone's loved one going away and not coming back. And
Exactly.
I think our society, the downfall of our society, as right now, as we see it right now, the downfall of our society went away with the most important thing that you could ever tell anyone, and that's the golden rule. When was the last time you heard someone actually say the golden rule?
Well, actually, I think, and to your point, which is actually right, but the problem is the golden rule, in which it used to be golden, has been tarnished. Mm-hmm. It's rusted out with excuse me, this is just my Christian apologetics here, with the belief in the evolutionary theory, postmodernism, meaning what's true to you, that's your reality, and what's true to me is my reality, meaning that a blue man could call me a white guy, and if I believe I'm a white guy, then I'm a white guy. That's postmodernism. No, seriously, our children and this generation coming up has been taught this stuff all the way through up until now. And if I think that you're just a galactic evolved germ that's better than me in my germs, then what's the point? If you're just an animal and I'm an animal, but I'm higher or I'm richer or I'm in a better status than you are, then what's the point? We're all animals anyway. He just died. I mean, you're no better than a baby pig. You know what I'm saying? Like your life has no value because what's true to you is truth to you. Perception is reality. Postmodernism is true. Therefore, who really gives a care?
And what you're both, I think, where you're both.
So the golden rule can't really apply. Well, I'm sorry, because the golden rule actually does apply. Because if you treat people the way you want to be treated, if you don't treat yourself well, then you'll treat others the exact same way. So the golden rule is no longer the golden rule because there is a subjective standard now, meaning the scales always move up and down. There is no objectivity. There is no absolute truth. There and essentially that destroys the golden rule.
Well, exactly, and what now it's the oxymoron is what our society has adopted is relative truth. Your truth is relative to you, and my truth is relative to me. But Mike, you have a point as far as the golden rule being absent. Doing to others you would have them doing to you because it's been replaced with doing to others before they do unto you.
Or do unto others what you think they're gonna do to you.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
You got your warheads, I got my warheads. No, you first. I don't know you. Same time. It's it's pretty much that argument that goes on, right? And like I said, man, people need to start caring about each other, man. Because this is too much. Because if you think about it, if you look out your neighborhood and you hear tanks rolling down the street, tearing up the pavement you paid your tax dollars for. You hear dogs barking. You hear people walking around in boots and clanging riot shields, right? You hear dogs barking. You smell tear gas and you can't sleep. And your kids are complaining because the tear gas is clogging up the room. And you can't go down the street because they've blocked off access to half of your town. You can't make it to work. You can't go to the grocery store. You can't go to church. You can't do anything. And you're threatened with death if you try to move around in the environment that you call home. See, people can displace themselves from the problem, but it doesn't mitigate someone else's reality of being involved in that problem. Like someone is living that right now. And until people start understanding that that's a serious thing, look, we're going to be stuck here perpetually in this cycle forever. And it may stop with African Americans because, at some point, you can only slap a dude in the face so many times. He only got so many cheeks to turn, right? At some point, you're gonna get hit in your mouth. At some point, he's coming back, and you better be ready for it. And so, please understand that if you don't antagonize the sleeping bear. That's basically what it is. Because all the poking, all the prodding is not helping alleviate all the problems that we have to endure, and it's not help bring us together as a nation. I still feel like Scar said it best. When the aliens come, then we can all band together. That's the only time it's gonna work. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I guess
that's really the only time. That's really the only time that this whole thing is going to change on a global scale. Like, is the only. There's injustices happening everywhere, and it's not just us. Like, let's just be 100% honest about it. It's not just us. It's injustices happening everywhere. I mean, look at what's going on in Gaza. Like, that's all you really got to say. There's injustices happening everywhere, but at some point, we all have to decide that it's worth it. We all have to decide that it's worth it to take care of home.
Yeah.
And we spend our country spends so much time, money, and energy trying to fix everywhere else. And it's really time for us to it's really time for us to refocus and to look at Ferguson and go, how do we defuse this bomb before it goes off where I live?
Mm-hmm. And just look, and then have to just take steps backwards to understand, how do we get here? And truly ask that question and probe and listen and understand and do research and figure out and just sit down and be like, all right, this has got to change. And it just has to, man, because it may not be African Americans next time, man. It could be Latin Americans, it could be Asian Americans, it could be Asian Pacific Islanders. You know what I'm saying? Like, it could be anyone, and that's not fair.
You know who it's gonna be, but you know who it's gonna be next, right?
Latin Americans.
Mexicans? No, not even just Latin Americans. It's gonna be Mexicans.
Why just Mexicans? Why just?
Because
on that?
My work's Facebook page, the previous manager, and a lot of the people that were following that Facebook page, they're all very conservative. And if you look at that Facebook page, our country is at war with Mexico right now. And they are afraid of the Mexican military invading. So they already have this. There's a portion of there's a portion of our country that not only has a healthy fear of Mexicans, but are actually believe that we are being invaded by the Mexican military, and the Mexican military has made it as far as Louisiana, and President Obama has done nothing about it.
Wow.
These people actually believe this.
What? No.
I am dead serious. And you see people commenting and all of this stuff. I see this every day. I see it every day, and these are not just people that live here. Like, these are people from all over, friends of friends and all that kind of stuff. Like, it's crazy how the people are just ill-informed, and there's going to be another casualty real soon, and I truly believe it's going to be Mexicans.
Man, I sure hope not. Like, I hope we get a rein in on this, man, because this does not need to repeat itself.
I think Ferguson should allow us to take a look at ourselves and go, hold on, we're not doing this right. But I experienced the disconnect in my own home, the disconnect of not understanding. Like, my girlfriend is white, and she doesn't understand why this is that big of a deal.
Wow, she doesn't understand.
And you know, it kind of like throws me for a loop, and I'm just like, you're here with me every day, and you don't understand my struggle. And someone who's sitting next to me, someone who loves me doesn't understand my struggle. So someone who doesn't know me and someone who uses what little that they know about me to hate me is never going to understand.
Right, yeah. But I think to her point though, and I think it's you have to understand. To her point, she doesn't see you get overlooked at work, right? She doesn't see you get followed in stores. She doesn't see you get followed by the police for no reason other than just being darker than everybody else. Yeah. She doesn't see people lock their car doors when you walk up or around their car and they're not expecting you. She doesn't see that. So, you know, to her point, she doesn't walk through your experience with you. She may be walking in life with you, but she doesn't walk through those experiences with you. Now you really want to show us something. You really want to show us something. Have her walk into a restaurant 3 minutes before you and ask for a table, and you walk in right behind her and ask for a table, and you see which one of you guys get the table first. Actually, you walk in first and have her walk in behind you, and you same number of people, and you see which person gets seated first. And then she'll be like, oh, okay, I kind of feel you. And then order your food like real special, and then have her order hers real special and see whose is cold. You know what I'm saying? Like, then she may start to be able to appreciate exactly what we have to go through. You know what I mean? Yeah. You got a question, Knox?
Yeah, I got a question for, I guess, both of you guys, especially being black males and also being fathers, and we have a good soiree of a demographic here. You know, Scarfinger has a daughter. I have 2 sons that are under the age of 6, and Blue, you have 2 sons that are over the age of 6. Mm-hmm. So I guess just kind of a roundabout, because until we get to the point, or as we're working towards the point to where we try to restore the little bit of humanity that we should have and the morality that we should have, up until that point, this is my personal feeling, and I'm asking this question to y'all, is like, what do we teach our children who are growing up in this society where at any moment's notice an officer who is designed to protect them, they read in coloring books and they read in their small, you know, teaching books and everything that officers are good people, they are here to protect us. And it's so funny because me and my wife were having a conversation, and she grew up in a more affluent area and I didn't, so it's kind of a huge dichotomy. And she was saying, like, well, why don't why is it not okay to tell an officer about everything else? I said, normally when an officer is asking you questions and it's just you on the street by yourself, they're asking you questions because they see you as a threat. Mm-hmm. They're not asking you questions because they want to actually find something out most of the time. And I said, it's a sad case, but we're going to have to teach our sons, when you get pulled over, make sure you put both your hands on the steering wheel. Make sure you don't make any sudden movements.
My daughter to grab her ID and her registration and put her hands out of the window holding the license and registration.
Right. Exactly. Like, you know, things like that, you know.
No, I want nobody to have no misunderstanding.
Yeah.
You already have the stuff hanging out of the window ready for whoever walks up.
Right. Look, I was traveling from Texas to Virginia this past week, and I was driving with a cousin of mine, and she's younger than me. She's a little bit above 20, and we got pulled over. I don't know where we were. I think we were in Atlanta, and it was a black officer, but you can tell how incredibly on edge this guy was. I was driving. He went to her side of the car. He wouldn't stop looking at me. He wouldn't even proceed to put his head. Now, I do understand that cops experience a lot of things and they have to be cautious. But, you know, she's nervous. She's moving around. I'm like, would you please stop doing that? I'm not trying to get shot. And I wasn't being funny. I was being serious. because of the fact that it's just that critical. It's just that crucial. Just like Scar said, I'm going to teach my daughter to put her stuff outside of the car, so there's no way, because guess what? The officer could see my hands and everything else. And like, it's bad, but at the same time, I don't want to have my son go out there and be oblivious to this knowledge that I can disseminate to him. And he walks in a store and he's only trying to pull out his wallet, but the cop, sees him. He's 6 feet tall. He's a, black male, and he pulls it out and he gets shot. And only because he didn't have the knowledge to know that people, cops are not here to protect and serve you, son. Some of them are here because they're because they're trigger happy, and they will shoot you and kill you.
The problem.
Do we lie to our children? Do we tell them the truth of reality? And I'm on the side of truth and reality, because I don't want to wake up one day or get a phone call at work and my sons are.
I've never. To answer your question, mine is real simple. I've never lied to my daughter at all.
Amen.
There's truths about our lives now that
right.
I can't tell her until she's old enough to receive that truth.
Right.
Especially about why she lives in Baltimore and I don't. That type of thing. But I've never lied to my daughter, and I don't plan to. I'm going to give her the information that she needs. Of course, it's a little bit different because she lives in Baltimore.
Right.
But I plan to give her the information in doses she can receive. I mean, like you said, your boys are under 6 and his is above 6. My daughter is 6, so I have to think what's appropriate for me to explain
right.
to my 6-year-old. And I just have to be honest. And and to start off the conversation is, you're not different. You are awesome, but not everybody is going to see you that way.
Right.
And you have to know that in every situation, you have to understand what you look like to them.
Yeah.
And that's just the truth. I mean, and that's just being honest. And like I said, I very much plan to be honest with her at every turn. And the real thing is, not everybody's going to see you that way. It's not fair. It's definitely not fair. It's not cool, but it's going to be okay.
Yeah. Understand
this situation. Understand the situation before you walk in, because it's just like like how when you watch a movie and it stars a ninja, right? And the ninja walks in a room and say, okay, in 3 seconds I've already thought about 25 ways to kill you.
Right.
I have to teach my daughter that in 3 seconds you have to think of 25 reasons not to die.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It sucks. It sucks that's gonna be the case. It's a little bit easier for me because I'm dealing with a young woman.
Mm-hmm.
But and I'm not dealing with the elusive black gentleman. But I, but I still have to. She still has to know, like, where, not necessarily where the threats are. But she has to understand that there might be people that's going to view her as one.
Yeah. And all I tell my kids, and I'm the same way. I don't ever lie to my kids. They may not be old enough to more or less process the information that I'm about to give them, but I do. When they are capable, I do tell them, and I just tell them, look, it's all about situational awareness, man. You got to be able to understand the people you're talking to, understand their tone, understand where they're coming from. Be able to understand what they might be assuming and thinking about you based on your appearance. Right. Even though your eloquence may throw them off a little bit, your appearance will still speak more fear into them. So you have to understand, and you have to be ready, and you have to be accommodating. And is it humiliating? Yes. Is it infuriating? You bet it is. Will you live to another day? Will you live to see another day? I surely hope so. And so that's why, you just got to tell them, look, be smart. Be smart, man. Don't be smart. Don't give them a reason. You just can't. You cannot give them a reason. But I have occupied too much of you gentlemen this evening. I want to thank you all for talking with me about Ferguson this evening. I'm gonna start with my East Coast brother first, Mike, aka Scarfinger. Go ahead and give us your shout outs, man. Pimp your places and people.
Shout out to y'all. It's always good talking, even if it's a serious situation like that. It's always good talking to y'all. You just catch me on Scarcasting Live is the podcast, Geeks Gone Raw is the site, and just I rarely tackle these types of situations, because I'm a pessimist by nature. So I don't think that me talking about it is going to change anybody's mind. But I was invited, so I came on, got my talk on, and I do genuinely feel better about it. I know that we're still in the thick of it all.
Yeah.
And it's going to get worse before it gets better, because as a pessimist, I truly believe that it's going to end with people that with the cops opening live fire on these crowds. That's where this is headed. That's what I feel. I think that's where this is headed. So it's going to get worse before it gets better. I seen pictures today of the new Black Panthers showing up with assault rifles. So yeah, that doesn't bode well for how this whole thing is going to play out. We already know that these cops are the cops. I question at the bottom of it all. You question their leadership.
Yeah.
And you hope that somebody would just get a handle on all of this.
Yeah.
And whether we thought it was going to be the governor, it can't be Obama. I'm sorry, people. It can't be Obama. Obama can't put himself in this.
That's a small community. That's not even a state problem.
Right.
That's a community problem.
Yeah.
And and folks don't even like the federal government messing with state stuff, let alone on a local level. Are you serious? Are you really going to speak that out?
Yeah, I mean, but then they talking about calling in the National Guard and all of that kind of stuff.
Already there.
Yeah,
already
so
there.
It's this thing isn't going to get better soon. But I hope that somebody on both sides with some sort of ability to appeal to their side, not even just the other side. But someone with the ability to appeal to their side can have a cooler head and say, look, this has to stop. Like more people are going to die if we keep this up. If this keeps going the way that it's going, more people are going to die. And it's not just it seems like it's a black issue. But it's not just a black issue, because it's not just black people standing out there protesting. There's solidarity, and people understand this on a human level, but more people need to get there.
Yeah.
And more people need to get there on both sides. If you see the person on the other side of whatever side of the line that you're on, if you see that person as just another human, not just like, if you see that person as just another human with the same wants and needs as you, we can come up with a better conclusion than rubber bullets and tear gas.
Yeah.
And looting and rioting on the other side.
Yeah. For real. Knox.
Oh man, that was a mouthful right there. I just, man, shout out to you for having me on. Shout out to the community. When I say community, I mean to humanity as a community. I mean, a lot of people know where I stand, so I'll just basically say this and just kind of piggyback on Scar. We're all human, but how you define human is how you treat humans. if you define humans as just a primordial, advanced animal, then you'll probably treat humans as such. If you define humans as something that is marvelously created, that has a transcendent thing that's more valuable than what we can ever cherish on this earth, then you'll probably treat those humans as such.
Mhm.
For me personally, I believe the latter. And that's why I treat every human being with dignity and respect, things that are not material. You can't give a person a bucket of love or a plate of dignity or a platter of logic. That stuff is immaterial and it's transcendent, and it's based on mind and consciousness.
Mhm.
And so the only way we're going to come to a point to where we value one another is if we transcend and if we have love that abides in each one of us. And if that takes place, true love, truth in love, then we'll come to find out that we're equally valued, and that just like the Constitution of our great leaders is that every man is equal under the law of the Constitution. And as far as Ferguson, my prayers do go out to you, but I would say know your history. We've talked about the civil rights movement and Martin Luther King. Well, back in the day, there were people that were planted in his movement to discredit his movement. People committed acts of violence. They just totally discredit the movement because they were paid to be there. You can call me a conspiracy theorist if you want to, but when you have people that look like you, that sound like you, but you've never seen people in this crowd ever before, go in the house, leave it alone. It's already happened. There's nothing that you can do. You can't change the past. Right. Get these people out of your midst, because they will discredit your cause, and as my fellow host here just said, I mean, pretty soon it's going to be live fire, and you don't want your children in that. Neither do you want yourself in that. Be smart. Think about the situation. It's not fair, but guess what? Life is not fair.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to treat yourself as such. So that's all I got, man.
Right. No, I appreciate you fellas for coming on, really spending your time working through the technical issues with me. I really appreciate it. And I'll say this, just to finish everything up, man. Look, it's gonna have to end in love. It's gonna have to end in understanding, because if it doesn't, it is gonna get worse. And I implore everyone here to listen to Last Week Tonight with John Oliver. Listen to that one this week, the one with Ferguson. Please listen to it. He talks about the ridiculous response, and it's just like, this is gonna have to stop, man. Like, people are just gonna have to love each other, because otherwise, what are we gonna have? What are we gonna have? Absolutely nothing worth keeping. So, everybody, thanks for listening. This has been Proving Point 52. It's all about Ferguson, man. So I thank everybody for listening. Check in with us next week. We'll be back in your ear again. Everybody, thanks. And stay.
Hey, I got a joke. I'm livening this up real quick. Here we go.
All
right. I saw this on Facebook. The Titanic said, "I nominate all of my passengers for the ice bucket challenge."
No.
You bogus.
No, man. Oh, no.
So bogus.
Oh, that's wrong. That's wrong. Oh, man. Oh, no. Oh.
That's Scarfinger for y'all, man.
We needed something to cut the tension just a little bit. That was
That's classic. That's classic right there.
That's good. That's a good one. Man, y'all fellas have a good night, man. I'm about to go pass out. I'll probably get this edited. This will probably be up Friday afternoon.
I'm about to be up late anyway, so I'll let your boy. I'm about to get my Prison Architect over.
All right, y'all.
Peace out,
man. I've been playing a game. It's called Prison Architect. It's like a tycoon type game where you design and control a prison. This is my type of game. They ain't really none of these on console really, but man, this
right.
It's a Steam early access game, but it's I love it, man.
Oh yeah,
that Screen Ride right up your alley, dog. Build that roller coaster.
Screen Ride is coming, man.
That's right up your alley on that Xbox One. So. Yeah.
And did you see that post?
I didn't see the video. I just saw the guys talking about the technology, but I didn't actually see the video.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like the first indie. Well, not indie, but I don't know if it's indie or arcade or whatever it is. But it's supposed to be the first small title that's going to take advantage of the destructibility that the cloud can process.
Word
So
up.
I'm actually curious about it.
All right. I mean, I'll check it out. I mean, I really would love a new PC at this point, but I guess I'm gonna have to wait on the Steam box. So I guess I'll do that next year.
Man, I don't even do that,
Okay.
man. You can upgrade your PC for less than you would spend
No,
on Steam.
I got a laptop.
It's still-
And this laptop ain't. Well, my laptop is fine. What it has is a stock Intel video card that I can't do.
Oh, okay, yeah. So you're stuck on playing indies right now.
Yeah, pretty much. All right. How about your boy?
All right, man.
All right, y'all. Peace
All
out.
right, peace.